Hello, Namaskar. I'm Priti Prakash, and I'm back again this time with the discussions on national security, which is in the series of Secure Bharat. Joining me today is our security domain expert, Major General Pankaj Saxena, VSM. General Saxena has had an illustrious career in the Indian Army. He's participated in Op Rakshak, Op Blue Star, Op Trident in Punjab, of Hifazat, of Pavan in Sri Lanka, of Savage, Vijay, Meghdoot in Siachen Glacier, of Parakram in Rajasthan, and of Rhino as well. He's been a military observer in United Nations to Liberia. He's headed the financial planning of Integrated Defense Staff. He was part of the delegation of 2+2 meet with Australia in Canberra and is now a senior fellow with CLAWS. CLAWS means Center for Land Welfare Studies. Welcome, General Saxena.
Thank you.
So let me start by asking you, General Saxena, security and national security particularly has a lot of connotations for various sections of people and society. So for armed forces, national security is maybe different. For the government, it may be different. For general people, it may be different. So I want you to define what national security exactly is, and how would you tell our audience what national security is?
Before I get on to the definition, I would like to thank Metamorphes for giving me this opportunity, and Preeti, to you for discussing with this important topic. Thank you very much. As far as definition of national security is concerned, I feel that national security is defense of a sovereign state. That is all the assets of it, living and non-living assets, within the borders of the sovereign state and beyond anywhere in the globe, and of course in air and space. And the government of the day is responsible, or it has to ensure that this national security. So this is a definition which I will give for our viewers, as you said.
So, as we know, and as many people who are aware of national security, they know a little bit about it. But I want you to tell us, what are the different kinds of security? I'm sure there are many of them. What comes to my mind is maybe internal and external, but I'm sure you know more of it, and I'll request you to tell us again about the different types of national security.
Yeah, of course, there are different types of national security based on the threats which we perceive to a nation. But if I put them in various verticals which are interconnected with each other, there is economic security, there is energy security, there is physical security of living beings. That is, when I say living beings, I mean human beings as well as our living stock. There is environmental security, there is food and water, there is social security, cyber security, and I feel that the territorial integrity or the border security is very important in this. And of course, the political stability of a nation is very important. Now, under these, when we discuss, like under economic security, which I mentioned, there is financial security, there is infrastructure security, there are various subheads which flow out of these, but generally people talk about an octagon of security, the headings which I have already given to you. Yes, you mentioned internal and external security. I think that is more of an administrative requirement, because any threat for which we are securing ourselves from is very interlinked. I'll give you an example. Say terrorism. Terrorism, generally people tend to put it in internal security. But terrorism is a global phenomenon. If India has to handle terrorism, then the whole world is involved. Similarly, drugs or gun running or money laundering, you know, uh, it is an overlapping thing. So I generally see security as a whole. I do not bifurcate into internal security and external security, because I feel they are very much interlinked and it is overlapping in today's world. Maybe for administrative reasons, because various ministries and various forces will be earmarked to look after certain aspects. It is being talked about, but as a concept, I feel it is we should talk only about security.
So, I mean, you just mentioned about the economic security part of it, also social security part of it. Also, they are pretty different, I guess, with the national security that we and you particularly, connote to. So, if you would like to elaborate a little on that, your point of view on that.
You see, when we talk about national security, how do we secure a nation? We secure a nation through our comprehensive national power.
Hmm.
When we talk about comprehensive national power, armed forces have a major role to play. However, economy has a role to play. Similarly, your internal, law and order situation, it plays a important role. Your political stability plays a role. When I say political stability, I mean political system stability, and then within the system. Say, for example, in our neighbor Pakistan, there has been democracy, there has been military rule, and presently they have a caretaker government. Then they, all reports say when the next government comes, it will be a democratic government, which is from behind the scenes ruled by the military. So if you do not have that system stability, it affects national security adversely. Now, if you have, say, we have a democratic system, there are many other places which have a democratic system. Now, within the democracy, if the government is not stable, it impacts the the governance, it impacts the comprehensive national power. So when I talk about social security, when I talk about economic security, when I talk about physical security of people, when I talk about energy security, for example, India is a country which is growing like China. For growing, a child, a plant, a family, a nation needs energy to grow. Our energy comes from fuel, from we are going into other various other means, but this energy security is required, otherwise our growth will stop. So when I say armed forces are very important for the territorial integrity, that kind of a security, but within and they form a very important part of comprehensive national power of a country. But there are other aspects which we should not lose sight of, which are quite important.
Okay. Next, I'd like to know, that in the context of various threat perceptions that we have these days, particularly, there is almost a conflict going on in every part of the world. And there's global churning as well. Is our national security, I would want to know from you, are we up to date with our national security, particularly when we see our neighborhood? There's a lot of tensions, whereas when China is coming, we see Chinese vessels coming in, sometimes going to Maldives, and we are threatened. Naturally, we feel threatened, and someone is coming in Sri Lanka sometimes, and they generally, we know their surveillance vessels. So that is as far as neighborhood is concerned. Then there is other threat perception also in the field of technology. Maybe say AI is posing a pretty good threat, but even if it is, there's some parts of it which are good also, but then it's proving to be a threat as well. Then in the warfare domain also, I'm sure you know there are a lot of threats, and strategically talking also. So how does our country, security concerns, how do the armed forces or the country take care of the security concerns in case of any crisis, for that matter, you know?
Uh, you see, the threats which you mentioned, they are manifesting in various ways. There are traditional threats, there are non-traditional threats. Uh, when I talk about traditional threats, I will say that they are, traditional threats are something like any related to our territorial integrity. But there are non-traditional threats these days, like financial, economic, uh, energy, environment, supply chain threats. Then you have uh, food, water. This is also a threat. India has been giving grains to all over. In fact, we send to Afghanistan also, to Africa also. Then uh, then there is threat of there is a cyber threat. There is threat to culture, to languages. There is a whole lot of threats now, and the security scenario in the world keeps changing. We are working in an environment, in the world environment. So it is a very, very active environment. And I think our country is doing pretty well in, managing those issues. Okay, I will give you, today in Indian Ocean, I'll give you an example. Indian Ocean, we are the main country. I mean, the resident.
Net security providers.
Uh, I don't think we are net security providers as yet.
Okay.
We would like to become. We are the net security facilitators as of now. That is my reading of the situation. But we are progressing towards net security provider when we increase our, the footprints of our navy, and various ports and all, which we are trying to build on our this thing, or like Dukam port we have now access to, and things like that. So we are doing pretty well. Only thing is that pretty well is we are good in the present circumstances, but we have to go much beyond, and that is where we are moving.
So does that also include the security that we are providing to the commercial vessels in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. First of all, when we provide this security cover to the vessels, we are looking after own supply chain, because our fuel and comes from there, and the trade comes through Red Sea. That is very important. Plus, we have become, part of an international organization which is trying to tackle the issue of piracy. In last about 1 month, Indian ships have, done 8 operations on the anti-piracy operations. So we become part of a larger global, organization, global thought process, and we acquire a place. So I think it is a very important thing which we are doing, and we are doing it well. Our navy is doing it very well.
Yeah, in fact, India is getting quite a lot of kudos when we hear the news that it's basically the Indian Navy which is providing, security against the pirates and helping those ships. No other country has, even though their ships are there around, but no other country has really come for help to these pirate infested ships.
Actually, that is our culture. That is where our culture comes in. In fact, the last ship which we the anti-piracy operation, it came out that we have you know rescued Pakistanis in that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
when our forces go in for an operation, they go in for a kill, irrespective of who is there. And I think Indian Navy has done a great job. I really feel proud as an Indian, and we are into the motion of becoming the a power which is reckoned. I mean, everyone has to look up to. As far as threats to a nation are concerned, if we go back into our history, Chanakya has defined threats to a nation, to a sovereign state. And he says basically they can be, identified into four kind of categories. One is external threats abetted from outside, external threats abetted from within the country, then is internal threats abetted from outside, and internal threats which are abetted from within the country. So when we are talking about threats, there is a there is a categorization which Chanakya has done. Then we talk about internal and external security. Then there is another categorization which is traditional threats and non-traditional threats. When we talk about traditional threats, we have been talking about mainly about, you know, territorial integrity. And in territorial integrity, the threat is of full spectrum. That is from low intensity conflict, terrorism, right up to conventional war, and then going on to nuclear war. But when we come to non traditional threats, these are the threats which are actually being played nowadays. Because most of the nations want to fight a war without actually fighting physically. So if you see non traditional threats, there are economic, financial threats, energy, environment also. We keep hearing that they are building, China is building a dam, and how it will impact us. Environment, food security, I mean threat to food. There is water, India Indus water treaty is in discussion. And social, within social there is health. We know what has happened during COVID. We know what happened during lumpy skin disease for our cattle. India is heavily dependent on our on our cattle and poultry. It got disrupted. It is a huge national security threat for as far as India is concerned. I mean, the figures are mind boggling because the contribution to GDP from our uh, poultry and from our cattle is more than rice and wheat put together, which most of the people we do not read about it. I mean, I it was also an eye opener for me also. Cyber, cultural, education, knowledge, talent. These are cartographic threat. Cartographic threat. China every day produces a map,
Map, yeah.
and they
Taking
say
some
this.
territory or the other.
So they say they start claiming it. So this cartographic threat is there. We have to identify and work towards it. Our own maps, which are published and displayed on the internet, should show complete India. Yeah, I mean, we keep discussing in various fora. If you go onto the internet and you look for maps, you will find that the complete map of India is very difficult to find. You will
And
find
every time you
either
have a different map.
either Aksai is missing or POK is taken out of India. I think it's a cartographic,
Threat.
aggression which is happening against India, and we have to, we have to publish so many maps that only that map flashes in the world on the internet.
Yeah.
There is a new threat that is of refugees. Refugees, I feel, are being weaponized. You see what is happening to Rohingyas. Uh, some of them have come into India. Uh, lots of them have gone into Bangladesh. Now the demography, when large chunk of refugees comes in, obviously your resources get stretched. When resources get stretched, there is lack of resources, and violence comes in. So many things come in. It's a kind of threat. Even in Russia Finland issue, this point came up. So I think we have to identify all these. These are very normal things. but
Absolutely.
they can be weaponized. So they become threats.
They are being weaponized, in fact.
They are being weaponized.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, okay. One more question that which is of great interest, is about our national security strategy. Now, there have been people in high echelons who have written books, and who have written and said also that India actually does not have a national security strategy. Would you like to say anything on that?
Yes, we do not have. Uh, it is very surprising, but
Mm.
there are reasons for it. In fact, all developed nations have a national security strategy. Even Pakistan's national security it is an 18-page document. It is National Security Strategy 2020 to 2026. They could take it out. But
Mhm.
we in India have not taken it out. And I am myself aware. I mean, since the time I was of the rank of a colonel, I mean, it has been decades now that the Indian Armed Forces officers, senior people, have been demanding a security strategy. But national security strategy, it has not come out. In October 23, recently, I read a report that a work is going on national security strategy. NSCS is doing it. National Security Council Secretariat. They are working on it. I know, I'm aware of this because they started this work on somewhere around 2018. And to create a national security strategy, it takes 7 to 8 years. So if we go by that timeline, I think by 2025 end or 2026 beginning, we should have a national security strategy. We have not had it till now. Um, is an issue, and there are reasons for it. And the reasons are of, you know, basically national complacency,
Okay,
indifferent attitude. I mean, I'm being very forthright in this.
absolutely.
Plus, to uh, resistance to change,
Okay.
and to put down a document. It's a document. It's a formal document. National strategy, security strategy is a formal document. For that, you need to assess your own strengths and weaknesses realistically. You have to, predict what will happen 25, 30 years from now. You need that vision. Probably, I think we lack strategic culture in our country, and that is why it has not come out. Plus, whole of government approach was not there. But if it comes out in 25, 26, I think it will be a boon for the security of India.
You think this is just the domain of the government, the politicians, or the bureaucracy, or the armed forces also have a role to play in this non-existent existence of national security strategy?
Of course, no, it is required. I
Required?
said,
Yes.
I said that the providing national security is the job of the government. It is their duty bound. Now there are various inputs which go into it, and armed forces also play a major role in this. And armed forces have their doctrine,
Mm.
but it does not flow from a national doctrine.
Okay.
Like in Jalan J.J. Singh's time, our doctrine on counterinsurgency came out. There was a very iron fist with velvet gloves. It was very much talked about. So armed forces have been not only demanding whatever they can do within their own sphere, they have done it. So armed forces have a big role to play, a big role for contribution. And I think whatever was within their sphere of influence, they have done it.
Okay, so but how do we stand disadvantaged by not having a national security strategy? And you'll be better to tell which all countries around us also have a national security strategy, or why do we not have, and how are we at a disadvantage?
You see, I know China has it, Pakistan has it. These are the two main countries which are, of concern to us at the moment. Of course, Pakistan, I don't think is of any concern anymore. We have gone past Pakistan, so China has it. Uh, Second part is that uh, if we do not have a national security strategy, from a doctrine, the strategy will come out. It will give us the aims, what is the environment, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and how do we approach towards our that goal or aim. When you have that goal and aim and the environment laid out for yourself, then all the three armed forces will work together and individually also to get to that goal. Now that would require, say, reforms in your organizational structure, in your weapon platforms, and the way you fight. What technology do you need? How human resource of the armed forces has to be tackled to achieve that aim. So it kind of focuses you for the future. But we must remember that national security strategy is a dynamic document. It's a formal but a dynamic document. It requires a review, constant periodic review, because the environment will keep changing, security environment will keep changing. So it will keep, adjustments will be required. So I think it is very beneficial to have a goal and an aim, and we proceed towards it.
And is it any country specific, or the national security strategy is, or is it a general document which is, as you said, of course, evolving one? But like we face threats from China more than anyone else. So is it, my question is it country specific or is it a general approach?
It is India specific.
Okay.
In that India specific strategy, we will know how to handle Pakistan, we will know how to handle China. It is India specific.
Okay. Um, So it was a pleasure talking to you, General Saxena. Your views were actually enriching and very, very insightful. Thank you so much for being with us. For my viewers, till we meet again with a new episode of Burning Issues of Our Times, and particularly on security and national security. Till that time, do let us know in our comment box how did you like this episode of yours, and we'll get you more and more of our experts on this show and in the series of Secure India. Stay safe and stay happy. Till then, thank you so much.
Thank you, Preeti, for inviting me and being able to give my point of view on this platform of yours. Thank you very much. And thank you, Metamorphs. Bye.
Thank you.